the indicator. Okay.
So
you can't trust the indicator on YouTube Live.
Take 2.
Because it looks like we're dead, but we're not.
We're not.
We tested it. The sound's coming through. So
all good.
I apologize if you tuned into the earlier stream. There's probably still people over there like, what happened? Wait,
We're here now, and we're live, and we've got our apple juice, and we've got a topic, hypocrisy. So there's 3 ways we're going to talk about this, Mr. Noble. One is free speech versus defamation of character. What is the line there between free speech and defamation of character? We've got personal attire and no judgment. Is there such a thing? And then last but not least, news and the truth. Or is that just an oxymoron? So the first topic is the free speech, defamation of character. So obviously we've had some the event lately of the MAGA hat and the elder Indian that happened in Washington. And this probably goes against the second point that I brought up, which is the personal attire. And you had some interesting, you saw some interesting tweets about this.
Yeah, so it's part of the issue we have with it is the language that people are using on it. You talk about the one kid is described as the MAGA hat kid, and the Indian feather not dot is described as the elder native how kind of noble savage type deal. And I just think it's very telling the way they're portraying the kid as essentially a spoiled brat with his white privilege and his smirk, and they're portraying the protester as this noble, he's an elder, respect your elders, he's a veteran. And the dialogue was that he was a Vietnam veteran, and it's come out since then that he was not. And it's not that it's just misinformation on the part of the media. It's been documented that he claimed to be a Vietnam veteran for the purpose of raising money for a documentary at some point several years ago. So
when did lying become so acceptable?
When it became necessary to push your narrative. This guy's a professional protester. He's I don't know that he's employed in any other capacity other than he shows up and he protests.
But I mean, the media that smeared this kid, this high school student that was there on a field, was there for the March for Life event, and the media basically lied.
Well, the reason why is because he was an acceptable target, I think. Catholic.
A kid.
Well, yeah, but he checked all the other boxes. Aside from being underage, he was Catholic, Caucasian, Trump supporter, and he was pro-life. And so the media in this country today is going to say, well, then we can tear that guy apart. Even now, as they backpedal on the narrative of this, people are saying, well, it's okay that he should still get dragged because he was there as a bigot against women's rights. That's the narrative. They don't. Nobody's apologizing for anything. The only ones that are apologizing are the conservatives who were aghast at the initial narrative and were like, well, no, we should respect. We believe in respecting our elders, and that kid was wrong. And once they've seen the entire footage, they're like, wait a minute, the kid just stood there while somebody jumped in his grill. So I think it's very telling, though, that even in light of all the new information, the battle lines are still drawn, and nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. And it's unfortunate because we're not making any progress.
So, but I do find it interesting, the whole notion that because he's wearing a MAGA hat,
right,
he's an acceptable target. So we all, I mean, there's no one out there that doesn't believe that whatever you wear definitely says something about you, what you believe in, how you want to be treated.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, I dress differently when I go to work versus when I go to Derby versus when I'm a mom versus when I go on a date.
And I think one of the things that I saw this week, and we actually, I came across the account of Dr. Pamela Esky last week when we were researching our last topic, and she's got a lot of really good takes on stuff. And for the record, I don't agree with her on everything. There's a lot of things that she's posted. I'm like, that's not it. But this again is, and I don't know where she is on the political spectrum, and I don't care. Like, if you say something I agree with, it's fine, and if you don't, that's fine too.
Smart is smart.
Right. And so she quote tweets somebody, and I don't know who she's quote tweeting. He calls himself Old Man Ebro, and he's blue check mark, but I don't know what that's worth anymore. And he says, "You show up anywhere is a MAGA hat." Well, I think he means in, but you know what you are doing. You want it. You got it. So it's basically saying if you wear a "Make America Great Again" hat anywhere in public, you're allowed to be a target. And she quotes it and says, "Try replacing MAGA hat with tight miniskirt, and maybe you'll see the problem with this kind of thinking." And she's got a great point. Women for years have been saying that, you can't treat us differently because we're dressed differently. The argument is like a woman shows up at a party in a miniskirt and a halter top or whatever, and she's asking for it. And I don't think that's ever the case. But it certainly isn't like she's there selling Girl Scout cookies. I mean, if she is,
I mean, that would be a Girl Scout.
That would be actually. I'm sure there's Halloween costumes like that.
But seriously, when I go out, if I'm wearing a miniskirt, which I have plenty of miniskirts, I usually wear them when I'm with you. Actually, I always wear them when I'm with you. Oh, I do now. But even before, I have never worn a miniskirt to the office. I have seen other women with shorter skirts at the office, and I think that is not a good idea. You do not get respected. When I walk into a room, I want everybody in that room to respect me and listen to me, and they can't when they're distracted. And it doesn't show respect if I am not properly dressed. Now, properly dressed in Chicago versus Phoenix versus LA, completely different things, but still, a miniskirt's a miniskirt.
Well, I think the point is that what the doctor is saying is true, but what the guy is saying is also true.
I agree.
You're going to have different levels of reaction from people based on what you wear in public. I go out like this, and people are like, "Hey, is that Hugh Jackman's stunt double?" But for the most part, I'm treated with respect. I'm wearing a collar.
Yeah, because people think you're a serial killer.
Okay, potentially. But
you're scary. A lot of pictures, people say, "Are you smiling?" And you're like, "Yeah, I am smiling." But you really look like you want to rip someone's head off. But no one's going to mess with you. That's why I can wear my little miniskirts out when I'm with you. Because no one's going to mess with me. But that doesn't stop them.
Which way was the train going? Because it was going down the track and then just. So the point is that you are going to be treated differently based on what you wear. And for good or bad, that includes wearing a MAGA hat. And I don't agree with it. I don't think it's okay, but it's a reality. Ivan Throne has a saying that he throws around from time to time, and I really like. When there's a truth in the world that people don't like and they don't want to hear it, he says, "I didn't create the dark world. I just live in it." And it is a dark world, and there are things in this world that are not right, and they're not just, and they're not fair. It's not necessarily right that you can't wear a miniskirt walking down the street and not get catcalled. It's not necessarily right that you can't wear a MAGA hat and walk down the street and not get yelled at by some, person that disagrees with you politically. But that is how it is.
But if you do, if we, society, really wanted to change behavior and change the mindset. It would have to be consistent,
right,
across
right.
ideology.
And this is where we get back to the, okay, it's okay to tear this kid up publicly in the press because of his ideology, or because of his race, or because of where he goes to school, or because of what religion he is. And that would never be allowed by CNN or the Washington Post. If it was, a Muslim woman in a burqa that got yelled at by a Native American, walked up to her face and started beating a drum, they'd be like, well, why is he disrespecting her? But because it's a kid who happens to be a little pasty and wearing a particular hat, it's like the kid's being disrespectful because he didn't back down. So there is a double standard. There is hypocrisy. It sucks, but it's there.
So speaking of, you were just saying that because the Indian in the video, they mostly show the Indian man beating a drum in the high school boy's face.
Right.
Now, there's free speech here, right? Like we all, are big free speech fans, and peaceful protests are important. It's a way for us to express how you feel and where you stand and what you support, which is good, right? That's the good thing about America. You get to do that. Now, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, here are two people who potentially disagree, and there's no violence. There's plenty of protests these days that end with, water throwing and violence and physical altercations. There was none of that. There was some personal space invaded, but honestly, it was some, and there was a couple peaceful protests. Over more review, it was, I don't agree. Like, he's an adult. The Indian man is an adult, and the adult should always take the high road, especially if there's a high school child.
Right. But you can't count on that either. So,
and you can't count.
but you make an excellent point. And the point is that if we're going to live in a free speech society, then this is going to happen. You have to be prepared for somebody to get in your face and disagree with you. I have no problem with that part of the incident.
Right.
The fact that these two people were staring each other down, and one kid's just grinning, and the old man is just beating his little tom-tom. Okay. Nobody punched anybody. Nobody spat on anybody. Nobody lit anybody on fire. That escalated really quickly. I did. I went from spit to fire. So it's okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
Take a drink.
Maybe I should stop taking the drink. But the point is that, like you said, it didn't escalate past that. The only problem is the way it was reported, and that this kid's family was utterly lambasted for it. There's all kinds of stories online now, and again, take these with a grain of salt, because I don't know what's true and what's not. But what seems like a credible source has said that, hey, I'm the brother of this person that was at this event, and our entire, we were supposed to have a wedding this weekend, and it's totally shot because we're getting hate mail and phone calls and messages on Facebook, and people are leaving negative reviews on our family business just because of this. And is that right? No, it's not. But again, people on the opposite end of the political spectrum are saying, yeah, it's okay because you're a Trump supporter, so you deserve to reap whatever. They're trying to bully people out of their right to free speech. So what we're saying, if we're saying anything, is that the protest and the counter protest were both peaceful and they're fine. The only problem is that in the aftermath of that, the people are trying to bully people out of ever doing it again.
But the media is too quick to jump at this, right? They're too quick to jump on stories. They want to get the first take. They want to get the most likes and shares and
right
and what have you. And it's out of control.
And it's not just it's partly the media, and it's partly the social media. So I found a tweet just before we came on that I want to share, and this is from at Yasha _Monk, MOUNK. Good luck. I'm not going to try to. I'm sorry Did I pronounce that wrong? But it says he's a professor and he's blue check mark as well. So take that for what it's worth. And I retweeted this into my feed so you guys can read this as well. But he says, with every passing year, I give more credence to the centrality of social media in our horrendous social and political moment. We are, all of us, becoming addicted to the dopamine rush provided by regular opportunities to hate, bully, and excommunicate. And that's very well said, is that it is, but it's true. We have grown addicted to the positive feedback of being on one side of our tribe and bullying somebody into submission on the other side. And that's stupid. One, because it's an empty victory. All you've done when you silence an enemy is piss him off. You haven't really defeated him. And there was somebody who said this in reference to all this, is that when you bully somebody to this degree online, you run the risk of making them anti-fragile. And that's a term that I think Nicholas Taleb or somebody throws around a lot. And the idea is that they become unbreakable at that point because you've broken them so far. And essentially what that means is that they have nothing left to lose. You've blown their life up, and now they don't care anymore, and they're never going to see your side of things. And you've made an enemy for life that is bound and determined to stand against you no matter what. And now your online bullying technique doesn't work anymore because you've already done that, and you've already given him your worst, and he's taken your best shot, and he's still standing, and now he's angry, and he's not going away. And the example that this guy used for this was Jack Murphy, because they've taken everything they can from him. The man's not allowed to coach his little league team because of all this mess that they've dragged him through. And that's the risk that you run. And now, he's writing books about it, and he's railing about this issue constantly because it's come home to him. And now he doesn't care. Like, okay, they've already blown his life up. What more can they do to him? Nothing. You can't hurt him anymore because he's already taken your best shot.
Okay, I'm going to go off the rails.
Go ahead.
Is this a product of us not having interpersonal skills? Because I do feel that there's a generation behind us that doesn't have a lot of interpersonal skills. Like, they don't necessarily value other people's experiences or their elders who have a lot of experience, or their peers. And there's a lot of interpersonal skills that are lacking. We don't care about each other.
Yeah, I think that's part of the, we live in this screen culture. All of our interaction is online.
We're not real people.
Right.
We're zeros and ones.
Yeah, we're not real people. This is a holographic representation that is speaking to you now. But that's actually one of the reasons why we're doing this, right? Because we've both been working on, the business that is Sociopathletic for the last 6 or 7 months or so. And, we want to put a face on it. We don't want to just be anonymous pixels out there on the internet. We want you all to be able to come into our living room. This is literally our living room, and say, hey, I know those guys. So if you were to come over and spend time in my house, you'd be like, wow, that's your home. Yep, I know that.
I can't help but look at everything behind us. I'm just like, we got our humidors, and we've got all of our weapons.
That's not all the weapons.
Well, not all the weapons, but some weapons.
There are no firearms in the picture. You don't even know where those
My tomahawk's not even in the picture.
Why you gotta tell everybody you have a tomahawk? It's just not tomahawk. The point is that we're trying to be as real as possible. We're just normal, everyday, average. Well, no, we're not average. We're better than average.
Better than average, but we do look at what's trending on Twitter, some of the news, and have discussions. I mean, we talked about this before we came on, and we didn't necessarily agree in the beginning. There was some points of contention, and we just want to make sense of it. But you know what? We're not going to spend 40 hours trying to fact check absolutely every little thing. Judgment is important. So you look at a situation, you have to keep yourself honest and safe, and you have to look at a situation and figure out, okay, what are the facts that I need to make sure are real or not real?
And often it helps to wait.
Yes, on it.
Not only because then you're in a better mindset, because a lot of times we get angry and we have knee-jerk reactions over news like this, but also because the facts aren't always out there right away. Unfortunately, there is an agenda in every media story that you see for all kinds of political spectrums. Doesn't matter what channel you're watching, doesn't matter, who's reporting on it. Everybody has an agenda. It doesn't, Donald Trump has an agenda. Nancy Pelosi has an agenda. They are at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
They both got an agenda. And guess what? Neither one of them actually care about you. And nobody in the media cares about you. They just want you to watch their show and give your money to their sponsors, because that's what keeps them employed. So follow the money, take it with a grain of salt, look at everything with a skeptical eye, because the media exists to manipulate you. And as long as you have that in mind, then hopefully you won't overreact.
Very true. So as we get to the end, we've talked about free speech. We've talked about the importance of your attire. We've talked about the news and being skeptical. Judgment happens. It's going to happen. And we have a mean people problem, and we have to stop annihilating people just because they don't agree with you I can't.
Ideologically.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My apple juice is.
The apple juice is working.
Is working.
She's having a diabetic reaction.
Really? Anyways.
Would you like me to call it something else?
So what can you do? What's the action you can take? First of all, question the media. Question what you see.
Question
everything. Whatever that is presented to you, take a moment. There's always two sides. Take a moment and question and be slow to judgment. When you're in a situation, you do have to judge. You do have to use judgment. It is important. But is the intent evil or is it good? We've kind of talked about the whole pendulum there. And so you need to make sure that you're using the judgment to keep yourself safe.
Especially if you're going to take action that could potentially hurt somebody.
Exactly.
I really wish people would sit back and think before they go on Yelp and leave a negative review for a business that is 1,000 miles away from them, that they've never been to and they're never going to go to. And they say, hey, this is the business of this family that produced this child that I don't like because he looked bad on CNN. And think about it really hard. Like, okay, is this worth hurting another human being? And this gets back to your point about the interpersonal skills, is that it's too easy to do this online.
It is.
And if you talk to somebody face to face, would you really say face to face, hey, your business is trash because your kid went to DC on a trip to
kid? He's a high school student.
So, and I mean, and that goes both ways. Like, I don't necessarily think that the Native American fellow that was protesting is a super awesome guy, because he strikes me as a professional huckster and a fraud. And anybody that steals valor, I'm going to have a problem with, because I have family that has served in the military. And yeah, I'm not okay with that. But I'm not going to go out of my way to track that guy down on the internet and try to make his life a little more miserable. Because that doesn't matter to me. And he's another human being, and maybe there's a reason why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
He's got a history with Catholics. Do your research on this gentleman. He's got a reason why he doesn't like Catholics. I'll just leave it at that. Do your own research. But okay. And maybe that's legitimate. Maybe that's valid. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care, because I have better things to do with my time. So don't hurt other people online unless.
We have a mean people problem, and we need to change it.
Yes.
We need to change it. But you know what? That high school student, he stayed pretty calm. I know plenty of people that if someone would have beat a drum in their face, they would have not just.
I might have reacted differently myself.
they would have not just stood there.
Have him stow the drum in an inconvenient location.
So to the parents of that high school student, bravo, because he was patient. He stood his ground very peacefully.
Honestly, I think everybody at that protest was fine. They were vocal. They might have been a little obnoxious, but nobody did anything ridiculous. And I've seen protests that have gone sideways, a lot worse. So that's fine. Have your opinion. Go to Washington, D.C., share it. Make your voice heard. That's what this country's about.
Exactly.
Do it. And do it like that. Just be peaceful about it. You can yell at somebody. It's better not to, but you can, as long as you're not getting violent. Nobody's going to have a problem with it. And if anybody in the media is watching this, do a better job, because everybody's watching. And when you're wrong, people get hurt. Yeah.
I really like your facial hair.
It's distracting.
It is.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm distracted. So that's our program, I think.
That's our program.
Quick shout out. Don't really have a specific solution of the week. But I did tweet earlier this week that, I mentioned Jack Murphy earlier in the video, and he tried to appeal his position as a coach of his son's Little League team, and that was shot down because somebody was sending anonymous letters to the people at the league, and that's just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And in support of him, I tweeted that I was buying another copy of his book. It's on the way, and we're going to give it away next week. Well, actually, that's another thing.
That's another thing. Fortnightly.
We're going to do this every fortnight. Not the video game, but she likes the word fortnight. So.
I like the word fortnight. I've worked with a lot of Australians. They use the word fortnight.
So we're going to teach the kids the proper meaning of the word fortnight with this. So every fortnight, which means every 2 weeks.
14 days.
We're going to be on. So we're not going to be on next week. Just because of our parenting and work schedules, it's easier if we just go every other Tuesday. Same time, same channel. And in 2 weeks, we are going to give away a copy of that book. And we're going to promote that. And basically, all you have to do is show up to the stream and comment and subscribe. So any subscriber to the channel that comments, and I don't care if you say, "Hey, Noble, your hair sucks." That's fine.
No.
It's okay. I can take it.
I like it.
I'm a grown man. And then once your comment goes through, we'll take whoever comments, we'll throw all the names in the hat like we did for the Christmas contest, and we'll pick a winner, and I will mail you the book. And I don't care if you're international. So come on in from I got all kinds of followers in like Nigeria, Saudi Arabia. What? All right, I guess she's got other things in mind, so I gotta go. So thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you in 2 weeks. But you can find us on Twitter anytime.